Okay. All right.
So we're Masechta Shabbos Kuf Chaf Tes 129. So we said once the uterus, during the delivery, once the uterus closes, we'll see when that is. Then if she says tzrichani, bein lo amra tzrichani, whether she says I need it, whether I don't need it, ein machal melesa Shabbos. There's no chilul Shabbos because there's no sakana at that point. Rav Ashi masni hachi, Mar Zutra masni hachi. Each one learned a different way. Amri Ramar Shmuel. Chaya, a woman in childbirth, kozman shakever pasuach, as long as the uterus is open, bein amra tzrichani, bein amra ein tzrichani, whether she says I need it, I don't need it, machal melesa Shabbos. You can be machal Shabbos. Nista makever, once the uterus closes, then amra tzrichani. If she says I need it, machal melesa Shabbos. But lo amra tzrichani, if she doesn't say anything, ein machal melesa Shabbos. Amar the Ravina Lemreimar, Mar Zutra masti lekula. Mar Zutra was lenient. Rav Ashi masti lechumra. Hilchas kaman. Rav Ashi was stringent. Who's the halacha like? Or malay halacha kamar Zutra. We're lenient because safek nefashos lahakel. Whenever we have a doubt about life-threatening issues, we always are lenient. And now let's define these terms. When is it considered that the uterus opened? Amra Abaya, when she sits on the birthing stool to give birth. When the blood starts flowing significantly during labor. Ba'amri law, some people say that she can't walk on her own, that her friends have to carry her under her shoulder, under her armpits. Now, when does psichas hakever end? Ad masai psichas hakever. Amar Abaya shlosha yomim. Abaya says it's open for 3 days. Rava Amar Mishmed Rav Yehuda Shiva. Rava says 7 days. Va'amri la shloishim. Some say 30 days. Amri nardoi chaya gimel zayin v'lamed. In fact, this is all stages of the postpartum period. 3, 7, 30. Gimel during the first 3 days. Bein amra tzrichani, bein amra lo tzrichani mechal masa Shabbos. Whether she says I need it, whether she says I don't need it. If we think she needs it, we're machalo Shabbos for her. Zayin, the first 7 days after delivery, or after psichas hakever. Amra, if she says tzrichani, mechal malasa Shabbos. We violate Shabbos if she says she needs it. Amra lo tzrichani, if she says I don't need it, ein mechal malasa Shabbos. What about lamed? In the 30 days after 7, afilu amra tzrichani ein mechal malasa Shabbos. Even if she says, I need it, you're not mechalal. Aval oisin al yedei armoy. You ask a non-Jew to do it. Kiravula bread raviloi. The Omar called sorche chola. Now here we're talking about a chola she'ein bo sakana. We're talking about someone who's got an illness, but it's not life-threatening. Nasin al yedei armoy b'Shabbos. You can ask a non-Jew to do something for you. Something that's not sakana, you can tell a non-Jew to.
So then why, Ernie, do we have to say that there's a lamed period that's significant? It's no different than any cholish in she'ein bo sakana. Should just be gimel and zayin. There's no reason to say lamed.
Well, no. So in a chanami, so the Gemara is teaching us that after 7 days, she's considered like a cholish she'ein bo sakana.
Yeah, but the Gemara says, no, there's this period called Lamed. And Lamed is Al Yedei Nachri or Armai.
Right. From Zion.
Everybody, any Cholish She'ein Bo Sakana is Al Yedei Akum.
So, but you might not think that after Zion Yomim, she would be considered a Cholish She'ein Bo Sakana. So you are exactly correct. She is put into the category of a Cholish She'ein Bo Sakana from Zion until Lamed. It's exactly correct. Otherwise, you would think maybe after 7 days she's not a chol at all. So, Amrei Amar Shmuel, L'chaya lamed yom l'may hilchasa, and this is also now, l'chora, we've already been taught that if she's a chol she'ein bo sakana, and you can ask a goy to do it. So what are you asking l'may hilchasa? So in a chanami has nothing to do with that. That whether it's safe for her to go into the mikveh for tefillah, because they were concerned that if you went into the mikveh, you would get cold. And for some reason, a different than a regular chola, she'ein bo sakana, a woman after childbirth, after 7 days, between 7 and 30, is particularly sensitive to cold. And when do we say that? Means she should not go into the mikveh between 7 and 30 days because the sensitivity to cold might make her sick. And Rav explains it's only when her husband's not there, because her husband, through relations, will warm her up. And therefore, there's no concern about the cold. Right? If the husband is there, she could go to the mikveh, because there the cold would be dealt with by her husband. Ki had the Barte de Rav Chizda, like the daughter of Rav Chizda, Tavla begut plus and yamin, shelo b'fnei baila. She went to the mikveh within 30 days, and her husband was not there. V'itz tanias, and she got a cold. V'amtuila arsa basrei de Rav l'pumpadisa. Right, and they had to, I guess, like take her to Rava to Pumpadisa for treatment for this problem. Aroi Rama Shmuel, Oisin Madura Lachai b'Shabbos. You can make a bonfire for a chola, for a woman who's given birth. Again, because she's sensitive to cold. That's only for a woman in childbirth, not someone with a chola she'ein bo sakana. Chola she'ein bo sakana, of course, we're not talking about. You can do anything for a chola she'ein bo sakana. But lighting a fire for a chola she'ein bo sakana, you can't, but you can for it. So there are some differences in this period where we said that a chaya is treated like a chola she'ein bo sakana. She's a little different in the sense that you could light a fire for her because she's got some sensitivity to cold. Now, b'mosak shamim in b'mosachama lo. It's only in the winter, not the summer. But velohi loshna chaya, loshna chola, loshna b'mosak shamim, loshna b'mosachama. That in any case, if it's a chola sheyesh b'sakon, it can always light a fire. So another medical issue where cold came into place was bloodletting. So, Galenic medicine, Galen was a Roman physician, and there was this thought that we have humors, different humors, the black humor, the brown humor, the bile, it had to do with our body fluids. And they used to believe that by removing blood, they would treat certain medical conditions. Now, Galenic medicine lasted until, George Washington died by being bloodlet. He bled to death. He had pneumonia, they bled him. It's like he died in 1796. So Galenic medicine lasted for almost 1,500 years. Now there are rare medical conditions where we do remove blood, hemochromatosis, people who have a high hemoglobin, people who have very high blood counts. For example, somebody who takes testosterone, so their blood count can go up. So I have patients who go to the hematologist and they remove some blood from they donate blood, like they give blood to the blood bank, because otherwise your blood is too thick and it can risk blood clotting. So there are medical conditions, very rare, that require removing blood, but this was a very common medical procedure that was done for people in general to stay healthy. So Amrav Chia Baravin Amar Shmuel, Hikis Dam V'nitztaning, if a person had bloodletting and he got cold, Oisin Lo Madura, you can make a fire for him, Afila Bit Kufas Tammuz, even in the summertime. Shmuel Tzalchulei Tachtucha Deshaga. He had a very expensive chair, and by the way, when we're talking about making a fire, we're talking about on Shabbos, because if someone who was let blood and was cold, I guess it was considered to be a sakana nefashos. Then not only that, so Shmuel had a very expensive chair, and he commanded his servants to break up the chair to use as fuel for a fire. He had no other fuel. The Yavna, some kind of table that was made out of fire, made out of wood. And L'Rabat Tzalchule Sharshifa, this was something that you put your feet on, which was made out of wood. Well, you're not allowed to destroy a piece of furniture that's called baltashkis. How can you do that? Amarle, baltashkis to gufay odifle. Yeah, but my body is more important than a physical item. So since my bloodletting requires me to be warmed up, it's more important for my body than my chair. Person should sell the beams in his house and not go around barefoot. He should buy shoes. That's number one. Then, if a person has had bloodletting and has nothing to eat, he should sell his shoes. That's how important, even though we say you're supposed to sell your house to buy shoes, because it's not appropriate to walk around without shoes. It's a big bizoyon to walk around without shoes. That's why our grandparents they would always yell at us, Gainish Borvus, don't go barefoot. And what does it mean, Sarche Suda? Rav Amar Basar. Rav says to buy meat. Shmuel Amar Yayin. Shmuel says wine. Rav Amar Basar Nafsha Chala Nafsha. Because Basar is considered life and blood is considered life. One replaces the other. Shmuel Amar Yayin Sumka Chalav Sumka. That red wine, because blood is red and red wine is red, so that's what replaces it. Siman Shanibsar. This is going to be a mnemonic for remembering the next pieces of Gemara. Shmuel biyoyma de avad milsa. Shmuel on the day he had bloodletting. Avdile tavshile de tachli. They would make from him spleen. Rav Yochanan shasi adnafik tia meune. He would drink wine until it came out of his ears. Rav Nachman shasi ad kafi tachle. He would drink wine until it sort of his spleen was floating in wine. Rav Yosef Shasi Adenafik Merivda de Buslisa. He would drink so much wine that the hole that they had made for him when they opened up his vein would keep on flowing. Rava Madra Chamer Bar Tlosa Tarfi. He would like to drink aged wine, like wine that was like 3 years old. Amal Rav Nachman Bayitzuk L'Rabbanan. B'matusa minaychu. He asked them, he begged them, B'yoma de hakaza, on the day of bloodletting, go tell your wives that your Rebbe Rav Nachman is visiting, because if the Rebbe visits, the wife is going to prepare a beautiful Suda. He was reminding them that you have to eat a big Suda when you have bloodlet. V'kula arumi asiri, in terms of like tricking people, you're not allowed to trick people. Bar me'ahaya roma deshari, except for the following. Manda avid milsa v'lo efsherlei. Let's say somebody had bloodletting and he realized he didn't have any money to buy food. So lishkol zuzat macha, he should take a coin that's like out of circulation. You know, a lot of the shopkeepers wouldn't accept this coin. And he would go to 7 different stores that sell wine. Now, when you bought wine, they let you taste the wine. And he would say, let me taste it, then I'll buy it. And then aditam shir revisa. He would able to drink enough wine, there would be a revius. Each time he would offer to give them the coin to buy the wine. And they would say, oh, we don't accept that. So then he would leave. That way, he was able to drink enough wine. That's the harama that they permitted. Let's say he doesn't have this kind of coin. Lechol shev tamri uchbas. He should eat 7 black dates. The leish of mishcha mitzida. He should rub oil onto his forehead. The nikni b'shimsha, and then take a nap in the sun. I guess this would revive him. Avlate was a non-Jew. Either was a doctor, was a scientist. Ashkechel Shmuel, the Gane b'Shimsha. He found Shmuel sleeping in the sun. You are the wise men of the Jews. It was known that sitting out in the sun was unhealthy. Why are you doing that? Amrle, Yumada Kazahu. It was the day I went for bloodletting, and it helps. But the Lohi, Shmuel was telling him a white lie. He had not bloodlet. There was a day calculated astronomically where being exposed to the sun was helpful. Yuma de Nafla Beit Kufas Tammuz, the day of I think the first day of summer, June 22nd. The Savar Lo Iglele, and Shmuel didn't want to reveal to this non-Jew the benefits of that day. Hekel Baruch Taima Shah Simon. Again, these are other mnemonics. Rav Shmuel Damar Tarvayu, Kalamekel Besudas HaKazas Dam. If a person is not careful about making sure that he eats a Suda after bloodletting, Mekilan Lo Mazonos of Nashamayim. So Shemaim will not give you your Mazonos, your Parnasa. The Oimrim Wal Chayav Lo Chasan Yachus. If he doesn't care about his himself, why should I care about it? Rav Shmuel Damar Tarvayu, Haiman de Ovid Milsa, a person who went to have bloodletting, Lo Lesav Hecha de Baruch Zika. It shouldn't sit in a windy place. Dilma Shafile Umna. Maybe he had too much blood removed. Umukim le Arbi Isa, and he just has a revias dam. The Asi Zika v'shoif minei v'asi de sakana. That the wind will weaken him to this point where it becomes a sakana. Shmuel avaragav avid milsa b'veis l'shev l'beinev aricha. He would make sure that on the day he had bloodletting, he would sit in a house that was 7 bricks thick, so that it would prevent wind from coming in. Yom echad avid v'irgish b'nafshei. He once was sitting in one of those houses and he felt that there was something wrong. And they checked, and one of the bricks was missing. It means he was that sensitive to cold that he could recognize that the walls of the house had been thinned, was now thinner than they normally were. Ravu Shmuel Damar Tarvayu, Haiman David Milsa, person who has bloodletting, Lita Midi V'Hadar Lepik. He should eat something before he leaves to the bloodletting. The Ilo Tamidi, if he doesn't eat something, he pog b'shavcha yarka ape. So if he meets up with a dead body, he will become disgusted, and it might damage him. Or he pog b'manda kotel nafshe, or if he meets up with somebody who has killed somebody, he will die. Because again, these people have caused loss of blood. Now, ipog b'dover acher, if he sees a chazir, a pig, kashal davar acher. So that might lead to tsaras, skin disease. Rav Shmuel Damar Tavayu Haiman David Milsa Lishu Port of Hadar Lakem. You shouldn't get up quickly after bloodletting. You should sit there for a while. Omar Mar, Chamisha Dvarim Kroivim Lemisa Yoiser Menachayim. There are 5 things that are closer to death and closer to life. Be'eluhein. Ochav Amar, if somebody eats and stands up quickly. Shasa v'Amar, if he drinks and stands up quickly. Yashan v'Amad, if he sleeps and stands up quickly. Hikiz dam v'Amad, if he bloodlets and stands up quickly. Or Shimesh mitosa v'Amad, or he has relations and he stands up quickly. Amar Shmuel. Pursa dedama kotlosin yomi. How often should you have bloodletting? Shmuel says, now Shmuel was a doctor. So Shmuel said every 30 days. Ubeina prokim yemoid. When you've passed the age of 40, you should only do it every 2 months. And then when you reach 60, you should only do it once every 3 months. V'amar Shmuel, Pursa dedama chad b'shabta arba mali shabta. That the days of the week is Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. Aval sheni v'chamishi lo, but not Monday and Thursday. D'amar mar. Only somebody who has a lot of schuyos from his ancestors should bloodlet on Monday and Thursday. Why is this? We know that Bezdin operated Monday and Thursday. So when Bezdin operates, so the Bezdin Shomala operates. And therefore there's extra scrutiny given to people on Monday and Thursday. But also b'Shabbat my time alone. Now, why should we not do it on Tuesday? Because it said Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. Mishum dekamele madim bezavzi. This is some kind of astrological thing that Mars, madim is Mars, that Mars rules then, and Mars is the red planet. So it has probably something to do with blood. So Freit the Gemara, Maili Shabta Nami Kaima Bezavzi. Yeah, but Mars has something to do with Friday as well. So Kiva the Dashu Be Rabim. So this became a common practice for people to bloodlet on Fridays. So Shomer Psoim Hashem. So Hashem watches out for Klal Yisrael. Because even though it's really not a good day for them to do it, since so many people did it already, became the custom, so Hashem just has extra protection for us. Omer Shmuel, Daladuhu Arbon. Not only should you bloodlet on the there are other times where you should not do it. If it's the 4th day of the month, or Daladu Arbesar, or Wednesday, which is the 14th day of the month, or Daladu Esrim Va'arba, or Wednesday, that's the 24th of the month, or Daladu Delek Arba Basrei, or let's say it's a Wednesday, but there's no more 4 days left in the month, Sakanta, all of these are dangerous days to have bloodletting. Rosh Chodesh V'Sheni Lo Chulsha. Rosh Chodesh and the day after Rosh Chodesh also is not a good day for bloodletting. It makes you weak. Shlishi lo sakana. And the third day of the month is also dangerous. Mala Yom Tov Chulsha, Erev Yontif makes you weak. Mala Yom Datzarta Sakanta. And Erev Shavuos is even dangerous. Rashi doesn't really give us any insight as to why that is. On the day before Shavuos, there's a wind that's called Tvoach. Tvoach means to slaughter. So for that reason, we should not bloodlet on Erev Shavuos. Why is that? The Ilo Kal Yisrael Torah, if the Klal Yisrael had not received the Torah, it would have torn open their flesh and their blood. Omer Shmuel, Ochal Chita v'Hikiz Dam. If a person ate wheat and had bloodletting, so the bloodletting will only sort of take care of the fact that you ate wheat, and you don't get the beneficial effects of the bloodletting, right? Lo Hikiz elo sachita. That's if you had some kind of medical issue that the doctor said you needed bloodletting. But if it was just somebody who had too much blood and they removed it, then that's not he can eat. He can have bloodletting even after eating. So you should drink right after you let blood. But achilat chatzi mil, you shouldn't eat until the period of time it takes to walk a half a meal. So iboiluhu, they asked the following question: Shesila alter mali. It means you got to drink immediately. But if you wait a little bit before you drink, is that bad? Maybe if you wait a little bit before you drink, it's not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. So take it. We don't have an answer. Machris Rav, me'at kari bezuza, that if you buy either a pumpkin or a zucchini, 100 of them cost a zuz, mea reshi bezuzi. If you buy 100 animal heads for one zuz, you can go ahead and buy them. Now, there's not a lot of nutrition to either of those things. Mea sfami velo klum. But 100 lips, that's not worth anything. You shouldn't even spend a zuz on 1,000 of them. On Rav Yosef, ki avina be Ravuna yomad mefagri be Rabbanon. When we were at the Shiva Rav Huna, this was a day where the students were not coming. Amri ha'idna yomad esfamihu. Oh, this is the lip day, because lips are lo klum. He never understood what that means, lo yadana mai kamri. But now he understood that lips are something that's not really worth anything. Now he understood what that phrase was when they said this is like a lip day. The kosher not tabor. We say that you're allowed to tie up the umbilical cord. Ton rabbanon, kosher at tabor, you're allowed to tie up the umbilical cord on Shabbos. Rav Yossi Omer av choitchin, you can cut it as well. And they would bury the placenta. Somehow they had a concept that if you did something to the placenta, this is after the child was born, it was a skula that something good would happen to the child. It's not something that we understand. They would bury the placenta. In fact, the princesses would soak this in oil. And wealthy women would do it in wool. And the daughters of poor people would do it in shmatis. Amarav, halacha krab yoisi, that you can cut the umbilical cord. Even the chachamim who normally don't agree that you can cut it, if it's twins, you can cut it. My time, because the twins will pull away from each other, and that might cause like an umbilical hernia. It makes a weakness because it'll pull the cord away from the umbilicus. So you should cut it quickly before they pull on each other. There's a parak in Yechezkel that deals with Klal Yisrael is seen in Hashem's eyes as a wayward nation, someone who's not being taken care of. And the Gemara says this parak has to do with, teaches us all the various things we're allowed to do for a woman who's in childbirth. Shenemar, umolad ticha, biyomuledes osach loy kora sharach, means they didn't cut your umbilical cord when you were born. Uvamayim l'rachatz telemishi, and they didn't wash you in water. V'hamlech lo amlachto, and they didn't salt you. V'achte alachutalta, and they didn't cover you in blankets. And this is the drasha. From here we see that you can violate Shabbos to deliver a child on Shabbos. The fact that over there it says, and they did not cut your umbilical cord, teaches us that we are allowed to cut the umbilical cord even on Shabbos. No, you weren't washed in water. You can even can heat up hot water on Shabbos to watch the newborn child, even on Shabbos. You're allowed to put salt on a child on Shabbos as well. It means you can cover the child with blankets and keep him warm. And remember, we said that children were born with bones that needed to be straightened. So they learn out from here as well that you're allowed to do that on Shabbos as well. By
the way, today they save the placentas. They store them.
People eat the placenta.